4 people, including one here in Illinois, are dead and nearly 24 others hospitalized after eating packaged pasta meals from Trader Joe's, Walmart, and Kroger. The CDC says the food was contaminated with listeria. This morning, Dr. Michael Brown, a gastroenterologist with Rush University Medical Center, is here. And, you know, doctor, I think a lot of people are wondering at this point, what is actually safe to eat after this latest recall? Are there certain types of foods more commonly associated with this type of food poisoning?
Yeah, so listeria is the one you get a little worried about with soft cheeses like feta, queso, these sorts of things, and then lunch meats. That was the big outbreak, I think, back in June or July. And actually, the listeria, this particular outbreak with the frozen foods, was the same organism. Interestingly, that's where you're seeing an increase is in these these prepackaged frozen foods, which you think would be quite safe, but don't think about listeria. It likes growing in the cold, so the longer it sits in your refrigerator, the more the higher the load of bacteria becomes, and your risk of getting an infection from it is higher. Obviously, the higher the organism load in the food you're eating.
Interesting. Okay, so what are the symptoms, and then how soon after eating those products might you notice those symptoms?
So the vast majority of people, 95%, are going to get a gastroenteritis, which is going to be diarrhea, fever, abdominal pain, cramps, maybe some muscle aches and pains. About 24 hours to at most 6 days after consuming the food is going to get you into trouble. So that one's pretty swift. The more serious systemic injury, the neurologic injury, the other systemic issues like with the myocardium, et cetera, the heart, can be anywhere from 10 to even up to several weeks later.
Wow. So what makes the symptoms deadly for people?
When it gets systemic, when it gets into your bloodstream, that's where you get into trouble. Vast majority of us are going to get a viral, not viral, but a bacterial sort of enteritis and have some couple bad days of diarrhea to resolve by itself. Usually we never test those people. We don't diagnose it with stool cultures. But occasionally, if you're immunocompromised, if you're pregnant, if you're on the very end of the life stage, very early or very elderly, you can get into difficulties with particularly the neurologic, the meningitis, cerebritis, meningoencephalitis, can be deadly. 50% mortality rate with that. So
that is horrifying. So is this a lifelong condition for those people then, once they've been exposed to it? This is something they're going to have to kind of manage for the rest of their lives.
There is a carriage rate with listeria, but it's pretty small. Most people asymptomatic carriers don't get into trouble with it. The issue is if pregnancy is not a lifelong issue, but being immunocompromised can be, being over the age of 65 can be. So there you're just going to have to practice food safety. You know, cold cuts in particular, people keep those in the, they're expensive. People leave them in the fridge for, for quite a while. Even if they're in the packaging and never been opened, they should be pitched in 2 weeks. If they've been open 3 to 5 days, you've got to get rid of those.
Wow.
You don't cook your cold cuts, right? So you can't wash them. So they're a risk for you. So you have to, I'm not good at it, but you just got to throw that stuff out after a few days. Same with the soft cheeses.
That timeline is very surprising. So does reheating or maybe cooking food a certain way reduce your risk?
Yeah, if you can bring it up to 165 degrees, you reduce the risk. Unfortunately, if you think about it, you don't cook soft cheeses very often. I mean, maybe you do, but mostly you don't. Cold cuts, you eat them in a cold sandwich. You're not going to bring it up to that temperature. A hot dog, you probably will. So yes, you can cook it off, but keeping it in the refrigerator is not going to help you. As a matter of fact, it likes to grow there. Actually, if you buy the cold cuts on day 1, by day 5, then the amount of listeria in that cold cut, if it's in there, is going to increase quite a bit. And it's the volume of that bug you get when you eat the food that gets you into trouble.
Okay, last question. So if you think you have been exposed to listeria, what should you do?
You do want to call your physician, talk about it. There's no treatment. Most people have, like I said, a self-limited gastroenteritis. The people who really need to contact their physician are if you're pregnant, you have immunocompromised, or you're like above the age 65. You just want to check with them, particularly if you're having systemic complaints like fever, chills, and really important if you're having any neurologic issues, balance issues, tremors, headaches. Those are reasons you really need to contact your physician, particularly if you've eaten any of those suspect foods, soft cheeses, these frozen pre-prepared meals, as well as cold cuts or those kind of meats.
Okay, thanks so much, Dr. Michael Brown. We appreciate your feedback this morning.